So hello everyone, good day to all of you. Today I will be discussing about the evaluation strategies in identifying the effectivity of instructional materials. So with the pandemic that is currently happening right now, the basic mode of learning is modular learning and online learning. So for modular learning, I think the basic instructional material is the modules itself. And then for online learning, it depends on the supplementary materials provided by the teacher. So for all the teachers out there, you can actually take out any instructional materials that you have right now, because I will be discussing the indicators on how to evaluate those instructional materials. So let's start. Okay, so first I will be showing you a study which is entitled Evaluation of the Department of Education Instructional Materials Used in Teaching Maranao language in grade 1. So I chose this research because I know that most of the teachers listening right now are currently working on DepEd, and then we are also teaching the language itself. Okay, so this research is from the MSU Marawi, so that is very near to us. So I really hope we can relate much onto it. So this research is published by Asnaida A. Makadatar and Siti Zainab H.Z. Ali. So I will be giving credit for them. Okay, so these are the indicators that they have on their research when evaluating instructional materials. There are actually 8. So first we have assessment. Next is organization and presentation. Third is general satisfaction. Fourth is efficiency. And then the fifth is content. Sixth is effectiveness. Seventh is appeal. And the last is equity and accessibility. So these 8 indicators are actually arranged according to the answers of the respondents. So in their questionnaire, their first and most prioritized indicator is, of course, even if you ask me, it would always be the content, right? But when they let the respondents answer their questionnaire, the content came to the 5th, okay? It ranked 5th as an indicator of instructional materials. So for credibility and validity of this research, I will be giving you the link, so you can actually access their published research here. And this is also the publishing number for it, for you to make sure that it is really credible and valid. So let's talk about the research. Okay, so first, their most prioritized indicator is the content. What is under the content? How do we evaluate the content of an instructional material? So if you have your modules out there, you might want to check this. Okay, first, it should align with curriculum and learning competencies. Okay, so next is that it should be age appropriate and is designed to meet the learner's needs. Third is that it follows the principles of language learning and acquisition. So remember that the research is about language. So this is very much relatable, especially for those language teachers, English teachers. Next is activities are short and varied to match attention span. Okay, so there should be no activities that are long as, I don't know, depending on the age of the students. Next is that it is appropriate for local context and it meets the community standard. So it should be contextualized, localized, okay? And then language and expression is acceptable and understandable. So of course, there should be no or any profanity on the content. Next is that it should be accurate, it should use proper grammar, spelling, and is free of errors. That means it has been evaluated much already for it to be free of error. And then it should contain appropriate vocabulary and sentence structure. It should provide communicative activities, especially in English, that are reflective of the objectives. And it should stimulate growth, especially in literary appreciation and aesthetic values. So these indicators for content, sub-indicators for content, are very much applied to English or any language subject. Next, after content, they have organization and presentation. How is your instructional material organized and presented? Okay, so here it is. There's still 10 sub-indicators under this indicator. First, the content and directions are clear and understandable. So this talks about clarity of directions of your instructions. Okay, because with the problem today of modular learning, a lot of students are asking, Ma'am, saan man ni siya, Ma'am, how do we do this? So the direction and instruction is already there, but how come they are still asking, okay, the teachers about it? So there might be something wrong with the clarity of direction or instruction. So you might want to check on that there. Next is that the requirements for the teachers are clearly stated. So some modules are very communicative, not just of the students, but also very interactive to the teachers, okay? And then appendices are sufficient and conveniently organized. So it's not just about the content. There should also be appendices. You know those what you call extra pages, okay? And then the illustration cover and general format is attractive and durable, okay? So students will always want to see instructional materials that are covered in pictures, that are colored, or whatever, or how you want it to be. Next is methods of presentation are based upon good learning theory. Okay, so theories should be used, those that are very appropriate for the learners and for the situation today. Next is that the size of material is appropriate for use at an intended level. Okay, so is it booklet or is it short or A4 or long band paper or bigger than that? Whatever the size of your instructional material is, it should always be appropriate for use at an intended level. Next is that the visual aids help clarify or enhance the contents of the curriculum. So the visual aid, from the word aid, it should help clarify the content, not make the students more confusing, okay? So the student should not be confused. Now, what is this picture all about? Where does it connect to? Where does it relate to? So the students should not be asking those questions, because the visual aids or the pictures that you have put on the module should help the students clarify the content. So the visual images illustrations reflect local realities and levels suited. So the visual images that you used for your module should also be localized, contextualized. Next is appropriate use of font size and format intended grade level. So this is very important for me, because there are some modules wherein the font size is very small. There are also some modules wherein the font size is very large. So it really depends. Maybe if it's for elementary, of course, I understand that the font size should be larger, but if it's for, senior high school, it could be smaller, but not too small that they can't see it anymore. Okay? Tas magprint pa yung teacher, pinabooklet pa. So mas liliit yung font size. Okay? So I hope we can address that one. And then lastly, for organization and presentation is that, of course, it should be well organized, okay? I can actually there are still some modules in which the page numbers are not even organized, okay? It's not about the matter of booklet printing. Kung ano yung binigay na module or kung ano yung nagawang module, it's wala, the number of the pages are already disorganized. So mas lalong mahihirapan yung gagamit or magpo-print, whatever. And it should contain appropriate aids, and of course, it should be user-friendly. Okay, so I actually commend those modules that are user-friendly, in which they use this pictures that with dialogues to convey or to communicate to the students or learners. So yeah, salute to those. Okay, that is the second indicator, and the 10 sub-indicators under that, organization and presentation. Let's proceed to the third. So the third indicator is equity and accessibility. So this only has 5 sub-indicators. First, the material should be durable, easily stored and transported. Hindi yung madaling mapunit or madaling masira, okay? So if it is, it should be easily stored and transported, okay? And then material is updated, okay? It is adaptable and customizable. So if you might want to change something about it, you could, okay? So that's why I salute those modules which are given in a Word format, okay? It's not that changing it you discredit the one who made it. Okay, it's about you might want to have a twist on that module, whatever you want to do. Okay, next is it works properly without additional purchases. Okay, so of course it should not be very costly. Okay na, kailangan pa palang bilhin yung part 2, yung part 3, so it should not be like that. Okay, then it can be used without extensive supervision. Okay, because that's why it is called in-depth ed. It is called self-learning modules. Self-learning because it should be used without extensive supervision. And then lastly, for equity and accessibility, the last indicator is that there should be a balance between knowledge and practice. The module should not be about knowledge for everything. It should also have a practice, or what we call performance tasks, for the students to act, to do, or whatever. Okay, let's go to the fourth indicator, which is assessment. Okay, so here goes the quizzes, the tasks, or whatever. How do you assess the learning, the knowledge or learning of the students? Okay, so first, it should the observable performance should be relevant to real world experiences. Of course, for the students to relate, it should be logical. Okay, and then the appropriate assessment methods are suited to learning objectives. So of course, you should always go back to your learning objective. Everything should be connected and should be related back at the learning objectives. And then for the tests and examinations are suited to goals, students' ability, and easily assess what has been learned. Okay, so you go back to the goals, to the objectives. And then the appropriate evaluation instruments for measuring reaction, learning, and behavior. So I want to see modules who can measure the reaction or behavior of the students. So I think subjects like this are ESP, personal development for senior high. So yeah, those. Let's see how the modules look like. And that it offers assessment opportunities that genuinely measure progress. So it should measure the development of the student. Could be by level or by stages or whatever, or how you do it. Okay, so that is the fourth indicator. Let's go to the fifth. The appeal, of course. What is appeal? It gains and holds the interest. Okay, so may appeal ba yung instructional material mo? Let's see. How will we know? Of course, the visual aids that are provided when appropriate as motivation instruments, of course. So those pictures or whatever visual aid you have in your instructional materials, it should be provided as motivation instruments. Yung mamomotivate talaga yung learner, ay, maganda pala basahin to kasi may maraming pictures, especially in elementary. So even in senior high, I would also like to suggest that it's not really you're making the module kiddie or elementary, but even though they are already senior high, I really hope that the modules could still have more visual aids. Okay, because even if they are tasked to improve their critical learning, so I still would like to see modules for senior high that has a lot of visual aids. Okay, so but the material is authentic in terms of text and task. What do you mean by authentic? It should be genuine, it should be real. Okay, so the material is securely bound with clear instructions. So we go back to the clarity of instruction. Pag madaling maintindihan ng bata yung direction or instruction, then it's already it is also a part of the appeal na that material really has the appeal, because yung instruction pa lang, okay na, what more yung content, diba? Okay, next is various learning. Facilitates wide range of communicative activities, especially the subject English, okay? So, it should facilitate wide range of communicative activities, because most learning objective in English usually have these communicative activities. Okay, so let's go to the sixth, the effectiveness. How effective is your instructional material? Okay, the material is effective in facilitating short short-term memory. Okay, so the material should be good in assessing the short-term memory of the learner. Okay, short-term memory, because remember that the research I provided is about elementary, so maybe you could treat this as long-term memory for high school already. And then communicative tasks, because it's about English, are useful in providing learning opportunities. So they could really learn from those tasks. Hindi, those tasks should not be just, para makomply lang, para matapos lang. So it should not be like that. They should really, it should always provide learning opportunities. That's why it is really good if these tasks use real life examples, okay, that the children or the students could use. The activities in each unit are linked to each other. Of course, activity 1, it's about it's about topic 1. Activity 2, napunta na ng topic 10. So it should not be like that, okay? Activities should be connected with each other. Hindi yung masyak na lang yung students, so kailangan namang mag-adjust, okay? So it should not be like that. Okay, next is the proportion of development of reading skills is suitable for learners. So again, these are sub-indicators for English, okay, or for language-related subjects. So development of reading skills. So even if it's not English, so I believe that every subject should have this. It should develop the reading skills for learners, okay. So it could be, there could be the content could include text or longer text, whatever. It is age appropriate. And lastly, the material stimulated interaction and achieves impact, okay? Your instructional material should be communicative, okay? Should really interact with the learners. Hindi yung parang there's a gap or there's a wall between the module and the learners. So it should not be like that because it has to achieve impact. Okay, let's go to the seventh. I think this is seventh indicator of an instructional material according to the research I provided. Okay, in referring, efficient way to refer to specific content. Okay, so pag may hahanapin yung bata, madali niya lang makita. Dito pala to, the direction is clear. Okay, you go to this page. Okay, so it should be like that. Referring, okay, it's like may kung ano yung hinahanap, madaling makita. Okay, next is the material. It helps the learner to feel at ease and develop confidence. Hindi yung pagbigay mo pa lang ng instructional material, wala na, natakot na yung learner. How come? Because it might not be efficient. Okay, the material should help the learner to feel at ease. So, hindi naman yung chill lang or relax lang. It should be at an average, and it should develop their confidence. Okay, it should not, our students, our learners should never and should not be afraid and scared to answer our instructional materials or our modules, okay? And then the task should be credible and achievable. So, hindi naman yung to the highest level na halos hindi na masagutan ng student, okay? So, the task should always be achievable. Yung yakang-yaka lang. Okay, and then the material, it should be appropriate for subject area. Of course, if it's English, then you should talk about English. Though, you could I think you could insert thematic instructional materials here, in which though for English, English can touch a lot of other subjects, okay? And then the material should also be appropriate for age, for ability level. There are actually a lot to consider for the material to be appropriate, okay? And then, of course, values. It should teach values that are aesthetic, literary, and social. Okay, we are not just teaching them cognitively, we are also teaching them affectively. So they also need to know about values, character, their own character, so stuff like that. And I think this is the last. Okay, this is the last because it talks about general satisfaction. This is the last indicator according to the research I provided. It's all about general satisfaction, the overall, the summary of all the evaluation. Okay, so this indicator has 5 sub-indicators. We have first, the content is very practical, teachable, and flexible. Okay. Next, the material has motivating power. Third is that it should encourage learners to apply developing skills. Hindi Hindi kay yung ibang learners, pag sinabing tapos na mag-answer ng module, okay na yan. Okay na, may natutunan ba? So that's the problem. Okay, and then administrative support and assistance is provided. Okay, and then the instructional material design should be very satisfactory. Okay, hindi yung design na masakit sa mata. Okay. Okay, so that's about the research. Now let's go to the three types of evaluation. This could be external, internal, and overall evaluation of an instructional material. Let's go first to external. How do you evaluate externally an instructional material? Now, for external evaluation, the aim of this type of evaluation is that to examine mostly the organization of the material. Kasi yun yung unang nakikita eh. When you say about external, what you see first is what you have to examine. Next is to analyze what the book tells about itself. It's like the first impression, okay, of the evaluator about that instructional material. The look, okay, the introduction, the table of contents. You do not proceed directly to the content, okay? You look at the introduction. You know what you call those extra pages. Akala mo extra lang, but it really helps a lot, okay? So I hope you would not negate those pages. Okay, so what are the information or indicators of this external evaluation? So the maker or the creator of the instructional material should consider the intended audience. Is it elementary, high school, senior high, the proficiency level of those students, the context, the organization unit, and even the publication date. So ito yung mga tinitignan ng evaluator, okay? When the evaluator is externally evaluating the instructional material, he or she will be considering these factors: the intended audience, the proficiency level, the context, the organization unit, and even the publication date. Because there are some instructional materials that even though they are 50 years ago na, okay, the information is very outdated, they are still being used today, okay, which is really a sad reality. And of course, the evaluator will also consider the author's view on language. So what I want in this language, when it comes to language, is that of course it should not have profanity, the bad words and stuff that you think is okay lang pag ginamit sa example, but it's not, okay? For me, it's really not, okay? Our students have been hearing a lot of cussing words, of bad words from the environment already, from the social media and from everything. And then when we make an instructional material, ilalagay pa natin yun sa example. So they already have the examples around them. So why do we still have to support that, okay? And also the evaluator will also consider the publisher. There are when you talk about professional evaluators already of instructional material, they have their own they have their own votes or desired for publishers. So I know for teachers out there, I know a lot of credible publishers when printing instructional materials. Okay. Now, let's go to internal evaluation. So, let's dig deeper. Okay? So, these are investigations of what? Okay? This is an in-depth. Okay? Let's dig deeper. In-depth investigation. So, this, the evaluator should consider the material value. Okay? The objectives. Okay? So, here, it's already starting. The principles. The lesson design. Okay? How is your lesson design? And then the assessment procedures. Okay, what should be analyzed? What should be analyzed in internal evaluation is how the skills are presented, how the skills are graded, how the skills are organized or sequenced. And also, for those instructional materials that are audio related, are the recordings authentic? Or it could also have, are the dialogues artificial? It should also test the learner needs with different learning styles. So there are actually a lot to consider when making an instructional material. Okay, and does it support self-study or independent learning? So that falls under internal evaluation. And does it motivates the learner? So all of those fall under internal evaluation. Now let's go to the third type of evaluation, the overall evaluation. So it's like the summary or the general evaluation. Okay, overall evaluation indicators include usability, okay, generalizability, adaptability, nakaka-adjust ba, flexibility. Okay, when we talk about usability, the instructional material should answer how far could the material be integrated into particular syllabus as core or as supplementary material. Okay, so how far could the material be integrated into particular syllabus as core or as supplementary material? Is it real? Is this material included for the core materials, or is it just supplementary materials? So mostly instructional materials that are just printed shortly falls under supplementary materials. Next indicator for overall evaluation is generalizability. So it should answer this question: how much of the material could be used by the individual or by a group of people? Okay, how much of the material could be used by the individual or by a group of people? Will the material be used fully, completely, partly? So that's under generalizability. Third indicator, adaptability, should answer this: can parts be added? Can parts be extracted or used in another context or modified for local circumstances? So I think this talks about how the material can be edited, or is the material customizable. Okay, and the last for overall evaluation is flexibility. Should answer this question: how rigid are the sequencing and grading? So is it too hard or too easy, too difficult? Can the material be used in different ways? Okay, so that's another brainstorming to do. Okay, so I already provided you one research, and I also researched. There are actually a lot of researches about evaluating an instructional material. So the one I provided earlier is very local here in the Philippines, especially here in Mindanao. Okay, that's a research from MSU Marawi. Now let's go to foreign evaluation of instructional materials. How do people outside the Philippines evaluate instructional materials? Let's see. Okay, they have these indicators of superior quality. This includes usefulness, okay, design, and focus. So, as I observed, the way they evaluate their materials outside the Philippines is, I think, a lot easier because they only have small indicators or short indicators. So let's talk about usefulness for superior quality. It should include ample review and practice resources. Okay, it is easy to use and it is cleanly laid out for students and teachers. How about the design? So when talking about design, the suggestions and materials for adapting instruction. Can the student complete the content presented, or can he or she not? Okay, let's see. And then last is the focus for superior quality. The instructions, let's go back to the directions. It should allow careful reading and rereading. Okay, it should contain clear statements, so clarity is being repeated already, and purpose explanation. So this type of evaluation is from the IMET, or Instructional Materials Evaluation Tool, outside the Philippines. So if you are to search IMET on Google, you will see these indicators. This is how they evaluate their instructional material for superior quality. Okay, so this is actually a toolkit. Okay, for evaluating alignment of instructional and assessment materials to the Common Core State Standards. So this is from the US, okay, United States of America. Okay, other researches. We have another research in evaluating learning materials, wherein there are a lot of indicators for this one. These are mostly questions which should be answered. Is the material appropriate for adults? So this type of evaluation is preferred for senior high school. Okay, is the material appropriate for adults, senior high school and college actually? Are the learning objectives clear? Okay, is the content current? Okay, updated, relevant, balanced, and accurate? Is the content appropriate to the needs of the cultural group or the delivery sector? So whoever that group or sector is, do you think do you think the content is appropriate for them? Because you might offend their own culture or whatever. Next, does the material present opportunities for task-based learning? Okay, this is very important for adult learners, senior high learners. All their activities should be task-based already. They're done with too much writing and stuff. Does the material present options for meeting individual needs? Okay, so this is like evaluating the individual difficulty of each learners. Okay, does the material satisfy the various teaching and learning styles? Okay, your material should not be only using or applying one learning theory or one learning style. Okay, it should be accommodating to everything. Can the material be adapted to meet the needs of the targeted cultural group or delivery sector? So can it be adapted? Next is, does the content reflect current and accepted methodology? Okay, so the methodology used in creating that instructional material should be accepted or widely accepted. Okay, it should. Next, are competencies and task groups easily identified? Does the material present information in appealing ways? So it goes back to appeal. We also have appeal indicator there. Does the material provide flexibility in its use? And then, does the material support self-directed learning? So I think when making instructional material, it should always support self-directed learning, like what the DepEd have today. They call it self-learning modules, okay? Because it does not need extensive assistance from the teachers. Okay, so this is from the Ontario Adult Literacy Curriculum Framework. This is how they evaluate their instructional or learning materials. So this is from Ontario is the name of the school, I think. Ontario Ministry of Training, Colleges and Universities. So this is from March 2011, so that's like 9 years ago. So if you still want to use this, then you may. Okay, so here you might ask how are these indicators being presented? So usually, as I have researched, they are presented in a questionnaire, in a survey form. Okay, and this is what they look like. So this is from the first research that I provided you, the local research, that research from MSU Marawi. So this is their questionnaire. Okay, so they really thought that content is their prioritized indicator. Okay, content followed by the organization and presentation, equity and accessibility, assessment, appeal, effectiveness, efficiency, and lastly the general satisfaction. Okay, this is from the Ontario. This is from other types of evaluating instructional material. So this is how they do it. They have justification or comments. Okay, this is for others as well. You have cultural group, so targeting the and identifying the learners. Okay, so they have it like that. Okay, so now it's your turn, especially for my classmates. Okay, I want you to give at least 3 indicators. So I've discussed a lot of indicators to you, okay? So you could pick or you could select 3 from those, or you might also want to add something that I have not discussed yet. So it could also be that way. So again, 3 indicators: your indicator 1, your indicator 2, your indicator 3. I only want to ask 3 indicators which you think is the most important. Let's rank all the indicators I've discussed. So what do you think are the 3 most important indicators? If you will be an evaluator of an instructional material, what are the 3 most important indicators that you will use? Okay, so that's it, everyone. Thank you for listening. So if you have questions, you can contact me on on my institutional email. So you have there s.sibilia.menchie@cmu.edu.ph, or you can contact me on my number 0936-740-5607. So again, this is Menchie Sibilia, and I hope you learned a lot today, teachers. Thank you very much. I will be turning off this stream. Thank you.